So the year was 1967, not long ago. Boy, I was living it up then. I had hair down to here and mutton chop sideburns. And I won't tell you what I was doing, but it was very light exercise. And they discovered that men also had a problem that women have. Women call it menopause. They named the male version andropause. Now, the problem is that seemingly men and even doctors don't know this. So about 3 years ago, I started to ask a lot of my colleagues in healthcare globally how much they knew about this menopausal problem that we men endure. Practically nobody, less than 10% of people did. Because we used to spend, listen to this, the overwhelming vast majority of money up until 20 years ago on studying male disease. And that meant that women disease was being studied less than 20%. But what it also indicates is the arrogance of we males, that we literally care more about ourselves than we do our women, than we do our daughters, than we do our coworkers, our lovers, and our friends. And the fact is, we didn't want to admit, as you're going to see in this presentation, that we had a fallibility too. Only ladies, listen. We start this fallibility at 25. You start in your 40s. We're going to explain how this has changed the societies that we live in, the culture that we relish, and the very future of humanity depends upon what we're going to speak about today. So this is not a small subject about a disorder that none of you knew about. This is about how we're going to correct this so we don't have crazy men controlling everything. And boy, do we have them. Over in Scotland, Dr. Lincoln, no relation, maybe he was, but in 2001, 2002, came up with another term. What do you think that term was at that point? It was called a syndrome. And this menopausal condition that we have was now called grumpy man syndrome. Remember that old movie? I love that movie. Walter Matthau, Lemon, grumpy old man. It was in the 1950s, very small children with very rich parents that didn't want short children. It was a stigma to have a short child. They started to pump human growth hormones into the children. And yes, they grew a bit, but at what cost? And we started to, in fact, recognize that that may create a whole new industry. Now, the wealthy often pump human growth hormones into your body, thinking that you're going to be sexier. Hasn't worked yet on many of you. So here's the difficulty we have with we men, that we have this idea that we're infallible. Now, not many of you do this, but you should be doing it because the overwhelming evidence shows that if you keep muscles throughout life, both boy and girl, that literally they produce hormones and your youthfulness maintains much more than injecting human growth hormones in. And if we have muscle, which we used to think incorrectly up till 40 years ago, at an older age, 60, 70, 80, 90, and beyond, it literally allows your brain to work better, your heart to work better, and most important, libido. Let's all say it together in New York. Libido. It's going to be the new song. Our culture has created this machivo man image. And when we're 19, boy, do we have that fertility. We walk along the road with our chest out, Remember Saturday Night Live? Boom, ba-dum, boom. The chains, the whole bit. And we are at our sexual peak. Boys, men are at our sexual peak at 19. At that point, when I saw a tree that was bent, I'd stop the car. They say we thought every 7 seconds. I don't think I ever stopped thinking about it at that point. But at 25, what happens? We fall off a cliff. And here's the problem with that. Because your culture, your society, even your mothers taught you the machivoism, the chest out. You're in control. You are the head of the family. Remember that? You are the muscular ones, the strong ones. And that worked beautifully till 25. And at 25, no longer did we have the fuel to propel that virility that we had. Now, the women we fell in love with and made love with consistently, constantly, started to think, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? Because women are programmed to think, what's wrong with them? Men never think that. When women can't have a baby, they check themselves. They don't check the man. And we now know over half the time it's a sperm count of the man. So we, in fact, never have a woman, or very rarely have a woman, say, well, gee, what's wrong with you? How come you're not quite as smiley and as touchy and as kissy and as lovey as you were back when we were teenagers? Well, now you're starting to know. So yet we begin this menopause, and doctors don't know about it. Isn't that scary stuff?